We are charting the higher octave with California electronic synth-pop vocalist and multi-instrumentalist Matthew Nowhere. He lives in California. How are you? Thank you for joining me.
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
And I'm always amazed when I meet somebody who has been to Hawaii, lived in the Maui.
Yeah.
Yeah, because such a small world, right?
Oh man, it's amazing. Yeah. It's a special kind of person that could spend, more than a week or two. It's the energy is intense.
Yeah. So you were saying that you lived in Maui back in how long ago?
Oh man, I don't want to say, but I was in my 20s.
Oh, okay, okay.
Uh,
And how long were you there?
I was around for about 5 months, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, staying with different friends, sleeping on the beach, camping. Yeah, I spent a lot of time over on Hana side. Yeah, beautiful, wonderful. One of those experiences in my life that was, very formative. Part of me was like, I'll just live here forever, and then I just had this, feeling like, well, I better, I better get back to my life.
So have you
Yeah,
been to Oahu?
I have. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I spent a little bit of time in Honolulu, and I had a friend there that I stayed
Oh,
with and yeah, hung out with. It was actually one of my mom's friends, but super cool guy. Showed me around a bit. Yeah,
yeah. So now you're back in California
yeah.
by close to I think something you were raised in San Francisco in the Bay. You're originally from San Francisco, the Bay Area, right?
Yeah, yeah, I've been all around the Bay and the South Bay. Actually, as a young kid, I grew up in Santa Cruz, and that's kind of so the album Crystal Heights, right? That name Crystal Heights, I actually got that. Here's a little bit of deep lore.
Mhm.
That was the one of the streets I lived on as a kid.
Oh, Crystal
When I
Lake. Oh,
yeah, when I was about like 8 to 10 years old. And so that was a real formative kind of time, and so that's a bit of what
oh,
of
that's good
what
to
this.
tell me. I was
Yeah,
wondering about. So this is Crystal Heights. Where's that at? Where's
It's
this?
in it's in Soquel, so Santa Cruz County, one of the cities in there. But yeah, and then I moved to in Marin County in San Francisco after that, and
So
lived
this
there for
street must be very significant for you growing up.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you were a kid back then when you lived there.
yeah,
So
yeah,
this whole album seems to go back and with the 80s influence
yeah,
and a little bit of taking you back to childhood.
yes,
I don't know how far back, but the
yeah,
transformation,
yeah.
just going through that. Okay. Oh, okay. So how did you start out in electronic music? Just producing it and
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I mean, not quite as far back as Crystal Heights, but a few years after that. So no, actually, it was there. So my dad's a musician,
oh, okay.
and he had a 4 track, one of those cassette 4 track machines, right? So
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
it's a it's a
Uh-huh.
home studio. They're very limited, but he had one of those, and he had an old Roland drum machine. And so I got started early just messing around making beats and playing like that. I remember we worked together. I'm 8 or 9 years old. I wanted to sing "Beat It," Michael Jackson. So
Oh,
he
yeah.
got his friend to come over who played bass. And got the drum machine set up. They made a little backing track for me.
Yeah, you're
It was
totally
very fun.
influenced by the 80s. So I guess
Yeah.
your parents have a lot to do with that. Your dad,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
influence in
Yeah.
your entertainment. In
Yeah, oh yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah. And so the thing is though, and what's kind of interesting about the process for this record is that I that the music of the late 80s and stuff was all around as a child, right? And so this project has really been about going back to the memories of that street, of that house, but also of the era, right? That I kind of have been describing it as like the emotional landscape, right? Because as a kid, I was sort of feeling all that, but not really understanding it yet, right? So
Oh,
it's like kind of in there in a deep way, right? It's like these formative sort of emotional, sort of, just like the vibes, but not as well understood. And so, but by the time I got a little older and was sort of looking into music for myself, not just listening to the radio and stuff, I was playing guitar and getting into rock music and alternative was kind of the big thing and the
mhm.
harder stuff. And I felt like at the time there was a bit of a sort of a rejection of the more glossy synthesizers, the kind of 80s sounds were sort of the culture was starting to move away a little bit from that. Um, and so that's why in going into this album, it was like kind of like mining into these deeper places, and it brought me, re-examining. I could tell you more about kind of how I work as a producer because I'm kind of I look about eras, right? Like I like to study the real specifics of how people made music. But
Mhm.
it took me to take a second closer look at a lot of music I hadn't really paid close attention to in a long time. And it was such an amazing journey. It was just this rediscovery over the last couple years, really, of of all this, fantastic music that I hadn't listened to in a long time or hadn't fully appreciated how really revolutionary and groundbreaking a lot of this stuff was.
So
But
growing up, well, what were you listening to at the time?
Yeah.
Me,
As a kid or in this process?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
kid, like,
Yeah. Well, as a small kid, it was all the radio,
yeah,
So
yeah.
I
That's
have
what I was gonna say. Back in the 80s, radio was
yeah.
really focused on, radio. They were mentioned in lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
We had Casey Kasem,
Yeah.
and so many others. The all those and I know they replay those, and I miss them.
Yeah.
I really love listening to the replays.
Yeah. Oh,
'Cause
that's awesome.
I grew up in the 80s, and
Yeah.
I DJ 80s music as well.
Yeah.
We have an event here called Acid Wash that's been going on now for almost 20 years.
I love it.
And it focuses on a lot of new wave music and post-punk and all those other things.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of distinct memories of like Erasure and New Order
Hmm.
um and like and my dad had a bunch of records too. So I remember getting into Talking Heads and Devo and some punk rock too. We had like some Sex Pistols and stuff in there. And yeah, all that stuff was really formative
And
for me.
the high usage of the synthesizer, right?
Yeah.
It's really like, and by listening to your music, I can see that, especially in
Yeah.
that song called Transforming.
Yeah.
I hear that very much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and there's a video on this as well. So tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about that song. It's part
Yeah.
of this album called
Yeah.
Coastal Heights. This is your debut album.
Hmm.
It's out now, right?
Yep.
It's out
Yep.
now. So Transforming is a song that's featuring Lunar Twin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit that the two members of Lunar Twin is Bryce Bard Bordeaux.
Yeah, Vice Boudreaux. Yeah, over on
Vice
Big Island.
Bordeaux. Yeah, and he
Yeah.
lives in the Big Island, which is really amazing. And then Christopher Murphy,
Yeah. Yeah.
you guys. So how did you meet up with them? How did you
Yeah. Yeah,
connect?
it's actually a pretty interesting story. So I've known Bryce for many years. We used to hang out in Fairfax, which is a part in Marin County. So
Oh,
kind of it's West Marin, so it's the kind of little more bohemian kind of town, sort of right on the outskirts, towards the bay.
mm.
Tomales Bay out the West Marin. So we used to hang out many years ago. I can't remember how we met exactly, but we'd hang out at the same coffee shops and we'd get together and
Oh,
jam and stuff like that sometimes. Then I hadn't seen him in a bunch of years. I had been working on, I've been making music for a long time. I'd been sort of working on more sort of 70s flavored stuff. I was getting
oh
into,
yeah. Oh
yeah.
wow. Like disco?
Uh, yeah, kind of
Uh,
disco stuff, also some kind of funk stuff. So, just like as I mentioned, as a producer, I get really kind of into this like aesthetics of an era, and I try to get use all the same compressors and and all the same instruments, and try and really s- get what it is about a sound that really is so fascinating. But then I started making. I've been making more all electronic music kind of on the side, and just I've always loved electronic music. But I created a short EP of all electronic music, all using sort of kind of period synthesizers, just instrumental.
mm-hmm. Oh,
It very 80s flavor. And Transforming was originally on this little side project with no vocals. And I hadn't shared it too widely, but we were, friends on Facebook, and I shared it with him, and he kind of went like, "Whoa, like this is great. Can I put some vocals on this?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely."
Oh,
And so, you know, and I'm
huh.
thinking, I don't know, it's an instrumental song. I'm not, I didn't hear where they were going to sit in the mix, honestly. I was just like, well, it's got lead lines in there, what, you know. And then he sent it back to me, and I was like, we have a hit. Like, look at this. This is
Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
no,
You
it
know,
sounds
this is,
great. You're talking
yeah,
about transforming, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
transforming. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So,
That's a great song, actually. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was just this kind of magic of, you know, synchronicity that all came together, and so that was really the beginning of this album. And then I put together the next song I wrote was "Love Is Only What We Are," and I released that as a video and a single, and Bryce was like, hold on, take this down. We're gonna make an album. We're gonna get you some premieres. Let's do this properly, you know, because he's been in the biz for a while. He knows what he's doing, and he's saw the potential there. And so he hopped on board from that point as a co-producer,
Mm.
and sort of helped direct kind of the direction of the rest of the album, sort of in a spiritual way, keeping me on track in terms of uh, cohesiveness,
Mm.
a certain sound, and also just keeping everything to a really high standard. You know, I threw out a lot of songs in the process of making this. You know, there's a bunch of stuff that I was like, "This is pretty good," and he was like, "Not really," which
Oh,
is great. Which is great because you know, it's like as a solo guy, right? I play all my instruments, I sing. For the most part, I work alone, right? And so that's a real benefit because I can work really fast and I can really just go straight from mind. You know, I don't have to work with politics or with people and stuff. But the downside is sometimes you get a little too much in your bubble, and you know that outside perspective is super valuable. So he stepped in and really helped elevate the whole project at
and
that point.
so who chose the title transforming? Is that something because you're both transformed? It's,
Yeah, right. Yeah. That was the original title of the song.
oh, it
And
was okay.
yeah. And it started actually kind of silly. So at Crystal Heights, I have a strong memory of one day my dad showed up randomly with a Transformer toy for me, right? You know, the
Oh, oh, the
Transformers.
little doll. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I still collect them
Oh, okay.
as an
Oh,
adult.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but
Cute.
so that was the working title based on just this memory, right? I'm working from memories. But of course it took on all this other sort of layers of meaning as we're going through. So that's the that's the backstory.
And then there's another song that the Lunar Twin
Yeah.
featured in. It's called Persistence, and
Hmm.
it's a three is instead of an E, it's a three the other way. And I don't know if there's a symbolic reason for that or anything.
Hmm. No.
Okay, okay. Well, I
Yeah.
figured because there's another it says the Antonio family singers.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's fantastic sound that came out of that one. Yeah, that was a big part of, Bryce's vision on that one was really strong. He said, I'm hearing this angelic choir, can you mock that up in your DAW or something? And I was like, no. Yeah, I don't know. I can't make a choir. Sorry, buddy. So he called around, found some old friends who had a little, singing group and got them
Oh, okay.
involved. And it came out fantastic. It's really very
Yeah, it's a great
majestic.
song. Those, yeah, the I mean the album is great. I'm just
Yeah.
listening. I like how you have they all have they're connected to memory.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
connected to growing up in the neighborhood that you mentioned, the street, Crystal.
Yeah.
And Crystal is affiliated too with the art of transforming, the art of,
Yep.
spiritual awakening kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's pretty much all connected in that regard, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Precisely. Yeah. That and heights too, right? It's about
Yeah. Yeah.
elevation, right?
Yeah. You're
Right. This sort
transforming
of
to a higher level of high vibration.
ex
Yeah.
precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. That's right. It's the transformation of these sort of. So there's all these layers, right? It's as of a child into an adult, right? And of course, for me, that's in the 80s, right? Being a small child. So it's about looking at the processes of making sound a certain way, and then bringing that back into the present. Um, but yeah, it's all about transformation. It's all about mysticism. It's all about
I know there's a theme here
yeah,
on love.
yeah,
You also
yeah,
focus on that,
yeah.
which is actually like the higher part of transformation too.
Exactly, exactly. That's right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, my perspective is, life is crazy and wild and mysterious, and there's a lot that we don't know. But if you've experienced, and for me, love, it can be romantic love, but it can also be this, higher love, whatever we want to call it, just altruism or agape or whatever. And to me, that's the most important thing. It really, I can't think of anything that's more sort of grounding or true. Or if you get confused or don't know what's going on in your life, or you're in need of transformation, you can always rely on what is what would love do in this situation? What is the most loving situation? So if it comes across a little corny, I'm okay with that because it's
Oh, it's
it's the real
great. Yeah,
deal.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's a creative work
yeah.
and it's something you feel. So I'd say go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
So this there's a video on
Yeah.
transforming,
Yeah.
and it's directed by somebody named Zoey Nguyen.
Hmm.
Win. How do you
Yeah.
pronounce that?
Yeah. No, I think that's right. Nguyen. Yeah.
Win. Is he also in where in your area?
So she is in San
Okay.
Francisco, and this is sort of a mysterious person. We've never met. Um, so I'd have to ask Bryce a little bit more about her, but I think she's a lawyer. She doesn't work too widely. She's worked with Bryce once before, I believe, on a video. But
Mhm.
yeah, this is it's pretty wild.
So the video was where was that filmed at? I know it.
It's California. It's there's a lot of shots of Santa Cruz actually in there.
Mhm.
And there are some shots of, I believe, San Diego and Santa Barbara. So the goal with this is so Crystal Heights, right, is a street. But it's also a place, right? It's also this sort of um, half mythical, kind of half dream, sort of California beach town, right? So it has elements of Santa Cruz because that's where I grew up. And Bryce has actually spent time in Santa Cruz also, and it has a real magic to it, but it also has a little bit of a darkness to it. It's a really sort of an interesting combination of things, right? It has this idyllic kind of beach town vibes, but I mean, there's just like any other town, it has a little bit
So
of a dark side. So
where exactly is Crystal Heights? Like what is the I'm gonna try to look it up.
sure, yeah, it's in SoCal, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
SoCal. The
It's
city
still
is
there, that street?
yeah, it's still there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a long street?
No, no, it's no, it's just a yeah. I don't want to say the address in case people start
Hey, you never know, right?
yeah.
You know,
I
sometimes
remember that though. Yeah, it's funny.
sometimes these interviews, they a lot of people, when you see when you hear a song and
Yeah,
you try to look back like, oh, this song was written back in the 80s, it became, but I don't know anything about it. And then you start looking for reasons like, tell us about where's that taken from?
yeah,
Unless you talk to somebody who can tell you exactly what happened and where it came from, you would never know.
that's right. Yeah, I know. It's a
That's
trip.
kind of interesting, right? The
Yeah,
facts. I mean,
yep,
I'm all about that. I love knowing where things originated from.
yeah,
Song, how is I mean, you find out so much interesting stuff about it because
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, people have ideas and they just create these things. And
yeah.
there's a history behind it with them.
Yeah, well, I think I know I love that stuff too, but it's interesting because I mean, like that kind of brings up kind of the topic of lyrics, and how
Yeah.
lyrics can often have one story to the people that write them and come across as a different story to those that are listening, right? And everybody
Right.
that listens is going to have their own kind of personal. So
Yeah.
I like to have both of those things, right? So it's like how it goes for me is interesting, and I like talking about it. But also there's a way in which it's good to leave some of it intentionally open, because if
Oh yeah,
someone
they'll have memories.
So
Yeah,
people like
don't have a
you
voice.
might have your favorite song and you're like the song is about this beautiful relationship with another person and then you hear the person that wrote it gets on like yeah that song's about making a sandwich that'll kill it for you right so
Yeah.
so it's good I think
Yeah.
sometimes it's good to to we could talk about themes or whatever but the things that inspire art are very personal but I think if the inspiration is there, if the deep feeling is there, if the sort of artistic thing is there, that's what's going to come through in the work, right? So if a piece
That's
of
true.
art touches somebody, it's because that inspiration is communicating, and whatever the sort of imagery on the picture in the mind of the artist or
Yeah.
the receiver or whatever, those pictures aren't as important as that the vibe, the
Right.
feeling that comes through, right? So, yeah.
So I know you were mentioning that you focus a lot on the way that synth music was being produced back in the
Yeah.
80s, and you use a lot of analog production in your
Yeah.
style, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I mean, what did you notice, or when you're doing research on that? Like, how is
Yeah.
it different from? Did they vary in different years in the 80s?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so my journey really started all the way back in the early 70s as a producer. Not that I was alive then, but in other words, um, I've been on a sort of a journey of producing music in sort of going through the years. So I've made music in the sort of more of a 70s style. Um, and in the late 70s, there was basically nothing digital, right? It was totally analog, but it was kind of the peak of analog, right? So some of people will tell you some of the best sounding records ever recorded came out in the late 70s in terms of actual analog production. People often hold up like Steely Dan Asia or whatever. So if you listen to that album, may not be your cup of tea, but it is crystal clear in a way
Yeah,
that's
I'm
you
all
know
about that. I love the music that was produced during that period, especially
yeah.
disco era.
Yeah, it's
Because
incredible.
I mean, if you listen to disco, there's always a long entry, a long beginning,
Yeah.
an extended, I don't know. I mean, you rarely find those anymore.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
have this synthesizer, it sounds like just a dance feel, and then they repeat the chorus, like
Yeah.
a long chorus in the middle of the song, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes those songs can go on for 20 minutes.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah, dance music. Yeah, so but then, what happened is in the early 80s so the technology is all getting better and better and then this digital stuff started to come online. The first digital samplers and synthesizers are coming online and the early ones are like the Fairlight and the Synclavier and those were Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush and stuff were using them. They're I think what, 10 or $15,000 back then, so incredibly expensive, not home studio stuff at all. Um,
Mhm.
but everything was still to tape and analog, just straight analog synthesizers were all very common. But you start to have this in the early 80s, you start to have, this slight digital thing come on. Um, and you have sequencers, and I think so on the kind of commercial side of music, the big money, the big record labels, the big acts all figured out they could bang out albums using drum machines and synthesizers and sequencing, and put a little guitar or something in it to liven it up rather than booking a whole band or whatever. And so it got really popular because it was just easier and cheaper. Um, but on the other side of things, you have bands like New Order who were um, making post-punk and then got a hold of sequencers and they were just doing these radical new things with them, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't up until not only a few years ago really I didn't really realize how radical it was. To me, it's like because those sounds got so popular, the kinds of beats and just the sounds they're using were in all the mainstream music within a few years. But at the time, of course, they were sort of mainstream, but they were also just very revolutionary in the way
Oh
that,
yeah, they are. Yeah.
yeah,
Amazing. From the Joy
yeah,
Division to New Order, I mean that you can see the transformation,
yeah,
during that time. And then
yeah,
they're still doing it. And
yeah.
amazingly. Yeah.
Yeah. And
They,
so that combination of using the sequencers and the drum machines and the synthesizers, but then also still having some guitars in there, maybe throwing some live drums or whatever. Um, that is I love working like that, you know, just um,
do you have the analog? Do you have these equipment?
I have access to some pretty amazing
Oh,
synths. So yeah,
yeah.
I use them sometimes. I also will use modeling sometimes as well, depending on
Oh,
what's most convenient for my particular situation. Because I'm not, you know, I also want to take advantage of modern technology in terms of having the workflow be straightforward and quick. So I'll use whatever serves the song the best is the way that I put it. Mhm.
oh, yeah, they're beautiful. Yeah, I'm so glad you're doing that.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm definitely. I feel like I've tapped into a vein, right? You know, there's something that's very inspirational to me. It's exciting to me, and so it just makes me want to keep going. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I really am grateful to Bryce for helping me to focus on this because you know, where I started with it was a little bit more spread out, and I wasn't quite clear on where the sound was going, you know, and he really helped to direct. And now that I kind of feel like I've dialed it in, I'm really excited to keep going. Have certainly will keep making more music.
yeah. So this album is out now, and if you
Yeah.
want to find it, what's the best way?
Well, you know, Bandcamp is always great. That way, you could support us artists directly. And my website, MatthewNowhere.com, will direct you straight to the Bandcamp where that's available. Of course, it's also available on all the regular streaming platforms. It's Crystal Heights by Matthew Nowhere. We've got a YouTube channel as well. All the usual places. You can find
You
me
got
on
the video
social
there
media.
as well, and your social media.
Yeah, yeah,
And I love how you put all this together. You start out with the intro, and you exit with an outro.
yeah.
No, it's kind of like telling a story.
That's right.
It's
That's right. It is absolutely it is a concept album, right? Like so it is a story and all of the songs I want all the songs to stand on their own, of course, but they are not all singles, right? They do take place in this sort of context of this like the whole album is also a piece, right? So yeah, it has to have that flow, that storytelling.
and then the
Mhm.
lyrics is from you, of course.
Yeah, except for the two that Bryce sang. He wrote the lyrics on those. But yeah, all the I've written all the lyrics, yeah.
And then the cover artwork is by someone named Violet Flame Design.
Violet Flame Designs. Yeah. Yeah. More transformation, right?
Yeah, totally. No, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that whole thing.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the goal is to really reach into that kind of transformative energy and to try and give it a sound and a feeling and try and share it with
Do you have
anyone.
any upcoming plans for the future with regard to other type of music or new music or
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'll certainly be you know, I'm a really prolific songwriter. I'm always working on something. So, yeah, you know, I have new music in the works already. I'm going to do my best to promote the heck out of this one since it's just out and try and get it as widely um heard as possible. But then certainly I'll be making another one for this kind of same vein. Um, and then yeah, I have some other kind of side projects in the work as well.
okay, well we look forward to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and big shout out to Shameless Promotion PR and
Yeah,
so much
yeah,
Matthew for joining me and sharing your experiences in Maui.
yeah,
It's interesting how Bryce is also affiliated with Hawaii, which is great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it seems like kind of like a destined kind of partner.
yeah. Synchronicities, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
synchronicity, all relating to the transformation.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the island is really the islands are very powerful that way. It's like I was saying before, you can't I don't think it seems like there's like a 3 month limit for people. You stay there after 3 months, you're either gonna kind of you got to get out or you're like accepted and you could stay because it's just the energy is so intense.
It's
I don't
calling
know.
you, right? It's calling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even this interview, I mean, I live in Hawaii, so that says a lot.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
thank you. And I'll be sure to put the link on the bottom of the page. But thank you for joining me.
Ah, thanks so much. Appreciate
Matthew
it.
Nowhere. Crystal Heights out now. Bandcamp page. Check out the website. And please like, subscribe, and share.